Hello and good morning. So, well, got a bit of a community tournament type situation going on today. So, going down the list here, this is the first one that was sent. The two people that sent me teams here were Royal Angel and Wachter. I don't know if it's Wachter or Wachter, I think Wachter. But anyway, each one sent me a team. Royal actually sent me two teams, almost two teams actually. I think it was like 7 ACs. As well as a few other scattered ones, and basically I just picked the ones that I could, put into a single team so that they're not overlapping. But yeah, what we have here, we have he called it the Royal Angel random type. Now let's see exactly how this name carried over here. If I can find it. Yeah, POAWDJ Moi. Royal Angel random type AC. I don't. Okay, I thought it had mentioned what that actually stood for, but any dang ways, it's basically like a mid-range shooter type. We got the Milk Tea over here. These two, by the way, were pretty much 1-to-1 on what he gave me. The Milk Tea is another kind of mid-range shooter with missiles, so it's basically got mostly mid and long range covered. With only the fairy for short range, so would kind of consider that a bit of a weakness. But yeah, that's actually the first time I've seen the fairy used in anything other than the irony so far. Now, this is the coffee grinder. I didn't have space for all the letters, and I didn't want to put grinder with just an R on the end and the implications there any dang ways. So I actually recolored this thing based off the intro AC from AC3. But this is a modified version of my caffeinator, I think, judging by the setup here. The arms are actually supposed to be the macaques, and the side shields are supposed to be the flat shields. I swapped them out for these arms as well as the round shields, just because of this. It's more or less the same. Optionals was just given an option on them, so it was set up primarily as a kind of defensive blader type of thing. So yeah, instead of the Pixie 2, it's got the Pixie 3. Personally, I always just prefer the Pixie 2 because of the extra 200 shots, and also friggin' everyone uses the Pixie 3, dang it. And yeah, same kind of back weapons going on of the burst missiles and the mid rockets, and then the blade, instead of the dagger blade, it's got the halberd. But either way. Next is the Kisaragi random type AC. This is, interestingly, one that doesn't have any arm weapons on it, only back weapons. But yeah, thought it was kind of a cool thing here. So it uses only orbit cannons for whatever reason. So, there's that. And then, lastly, lastly, there were also, Creston Mirage random type ACs. And, by the way, I colored this thing based off of its orbit pods, not off of its company colors. And then lastly is the Jank Tank, which he said wouldn't work, but given that it's napalm rockets, arm lasers, heavy rockets, and the tube missiles, this thing it's got some pretty decent chances, I don't know. This thing is actually pretty darn strong, so, not sure why that's supposed to not work. None of these are tested, I will point out. Because the second... I never bothered testing and tweaking and all that. Because the second team is also not tested or tweaked. It's just kind of roughly slapped together into Formula Front. But yeah, we'll meet those as we go along. I don't know anything about them. I just kind of had a weird visual glitch, so I ran one fight just to make sure that they existed, so... Right here, I have two wheels, and yeah, we'll be adjusting them as we go along. Right, so Team 1 is AC2, Team 2 is, so we're gonna have Milk Tea versus whatever's in slot 4. All right. So now we have, where are they? The Wachter team. This is the visual glitch I was talking about. For whatever reason, they're not coming up. And I have a feeling there's supposed to be a regular Formula Front save, not a international save. And that's the problem I'm running into here. But at any rate, slot 4, so we've got a Severance. So let's see what this thing is. Alright. So we've got the milk tea. And, alright. Got the Severance. This thing seems like a long-range shooter. Oh, I apparently did not turn the sound back on. There we go. Alright. So as okay, just might have a little bit of lag here as I was pulling up this other stuff. But this first one here, or rather, this first or second team here. Let's see, 5 light to midweight designs, nothing meant to be super cheesy. Personal favorites are the first 2, the light biped and tank. So let's see, the first 2 are based on some LR designs that I've used for PvP. The rest were made with light mid base theme and whatever parts I had left. Okay, cool. Yeah, for by the way, for future reference for submissions, and I probably should have asked the guy at the time, but just you know, let me know whether it's going to be a international or regular save, because I assume that's what's going on with that visual glitch here. All right, so Severance just barely edged it out. I mean, that was close as all hell. So let's give that the usual. Best 2 out of 3 type situation. And let's do this. This is probably my favorite version of Apex and Circle. Alright. Can Milk Tea pull it out? For those who don't know, Royal really likes his milk tea. I personally prefer my agave coffee, but here's what it is. Actually, it kind of sucks because I can't really have any more agave coffee at this point. I have this blue agave nectar that I was using for the longest time, and well, for whatever reason, the main company that was making it, I guess they changed their formula or something, or they started adding something to it, but it just makes my wife and I sick now. So, we used to be able to just buy those in bulk for relatively cheap, and now, you know, it's basically like a cheaper version of honey, is the way I describe agave. But, yeah, nobody wants to put some stuff in their coffee and then wind up on the toilet for half the day, so, that's kind of out the window now. I have to get used to this friggin' creamer stuff. By which I mean just like the crazy sweet stuff that they have in the it's like, hey, you're here to have your Starbucks coffee, aren't you? You're not here to have real coffee, are you? Kind of section. So so yeah, might just have milk coffee for a while. But kind of sucks. I don't know why they decided to do that. It's just like, honestly, I wouldn't have even figured anything, but suddenly their bottle design changed. And suddenly, you know, I started getting sick from the thing. I figured, whatever, the weather's changing, maybe it was something to do to that. And then, you know, my wife comes back from work one day, and she's like, so what did you put in the breakfast tacos? Because, that thing was friggin' just making me sick all day, and that was the one day I started adding that stuff in there. It's amazing how much stuff you can add agave to, but there we go. So we got a 1-to-1. Actually, that was a lot bigger of a gap, so I kind of wonder if that thing got lucky, if the Severance got lucky the first time. But let's see. Let's see. I did miss part of that first fight there because I was looking around for that comment on which were those favorite two. Alright, this one is going to be a pretty major advantage to the milk tea. I keep wanting to call them milk toast, but whatever. I say that not because of their weapons, but because of the ECM. You can see the you know, lightning effect proccing every now and then. because this shooter type does not actually have a radar on it, so there's that. It doesn't have a radar dish, rather. I guess that's one of the fun things about doing the fights this way, it's just you never know if that's something that'll be useful, or if it'll just be dead weight the entire time. And this is like the one map where it's super noticeable and not just something that randomly may occasionally cause an issue, or something to, you know, combat ECMs. Which, by the way, one of them, one of Royal's ACs, I want to say the Kisaragi one, actually does rely on ECM interference. So we'll see. We'll see if that works out for him, because that strategy is very... it's all over the place. There was one that was the stealth sniper from the AC2, like one of Leos's henchmen there. And it's kind of funny because she could potentially win that fight they were having, but it's just she always ran out of ECM pods. Like, it was super effective against him, but as soon as she ran out of those things, it was just over. Alright, well, it's super close here. Who gets it? I mean, the milk tea in general is just, I mean, it's going to be better armored at this point. They're using... I never really thought about it, but yeah, they're even using similar weapons. It's kind of funny. Alright, looks like milk tea's gotten it. So there we go, Severance is eliminated. Go take them off the list. Alright. And next fight is spinning up. Alright, who are we seeing? The Team 1 is number 5. We've got the Jank Tank. Again, this thing does not look janky at all to me, but whatever. Alright, and then we got number 5 there as well. Oh, this is that weird race car song, isn't it? I'm gonna go ahead and skip that. Goodbye. Alright, so this is one called Winter's End. That's a pretty cool name. Alright, so what, is this designed after Assault Truck? Okay, Winter's End. Oh, that's pretty cool looking. Thing looks like one of those old Soviet trucks. Jeez. Yeah, Royal, this jank tank does not seem too janky, man. Yeah, I like this Winter's End thing. This is pretty cool. I would have changed one thing on this. Actually, if you end up making another version of this team, by the way, the Mini Sawa, this combination is really good, but for one thing, you probably want to not have as much of a walking tendency, though that might be part of its whole theme here, but the Mini Sawa is fantastic with the shooting speed upgrade. I mean, that thing can be downright overwhelming. I don't know if it's not... It's kind of hard to tell whether or not it has it right now, but... Anyway, so, first round goes to the Jank Tank. It sounds like they're singing Shooting Down My Game. Like, I'm just imagining somebody playing that over a really depressing game of basketball. Like, no, man, they shot down my game. I tried to dunk, and I can't dunk. Who knows? Maybe they just had a bad day. Man, I think, like, right behind Silent Line, Nexus has my favorite soundtrack. It's just so dang good. They just friggin' nail the whole feel of that game. Love it. Honestly, I think like when they're going and, you know, whenever people are trying to get others into the series and everything, first thing they should do is just like, no. Forget the robots, forget the gameplay, sit down, listen to this music. Like, there is stuff going on here. Just give it a shot. Alright, this is going way closer. Alright, come on, you weird Soviet mech, do it. I don't know if this is actually meant to be a Soviet mech, it's just Winter's End. It's got, you know, Gatling gun and the walk slot, and has that that particular white and brown camo pattern. I'm calling it the Soviet mech. So yeah, there we go. 1-1. Man, are all these gonna come down to the third round? I hope so. Well, this is working out better than I expected. Okay. So let's see who wins it. Got proper competitors here. Most of I don't know if this applied to both teams, but I know most of Royals, since that's the only one I got to see the internals of. Most of Royals have the codons. I think they might all have the codons in there, so you know, improved turning speed and all that. I will say, if you're submitting a team and you want to see them have, you know, be a pretty good gunfighter and all that, definitely put the codon part in there. Just because out-turning the other guy is very significant, and I think this one's pretty much going to the jank tank. Yeah. Unfortunately, winter has ended due to fire, it would seem. Oh, it's got scatter mines! That's what's going on. That's where it's getting all that huge damage from out of nowhere. Yeah, well... Dang it. Rip Soviet AC, I guess, but... Okay. Wheel changes, 5 is eliminated. Alright. First team is fighting with number 1, second team is fighting with number 1. Alright. Fair enough. The Wachter against some other one. Let's see. Wachter. Wachter, the White Rose. Alright, that sounds pretty friggin' cool. I'll say, Wachter, cool names on these. Alright, looks like... Yeah, looks like a burn shooter. Yeah, using rockets from... Yeah. Got some kind of rockets coming out of it. Hard to say what kind they are, though. Since I can't really... Again, if they ever remake this, or make a sequel or something, they better include the option to look at both friggin' teams. Yeah, that Griffin is really ripping through this thing. Because it's got moderate... the Wajamoa's got moderate energy defense, but it's definitely more for shell. And this Griffin thing is pretty difficult for the AI to dodge. Though it is gone now, so we might still turn it around. This thing seems light enough that it should be able to dodge those missiles. Yeah, it's doing a pretty good job. Nice. Alright. Yeah, this thing is, this White Rose thing's pretty solid. Actually, I'm gonna go so far as to say I think it might actually just win this second round here. Just because in general, between the two of them, with Wajamoa here, oh yeah, no, in this map, no, it's heavy damage eliminated. With the Wajamoa here, it's good for mid-range. Again, it is a randomly built AC. Like, it's got mid-range pretty well covered, but that self isn't going to last the entire fight. And generally, it's not really... Okay, between the two of them, it kind of needs to be able to out-tank the other guy. And he's doing pretty well here, but yeah, that thing's definitely got napalms on it, so... If it's switching to vertical here now, it's gonna give up its advantage. Still got a shot. It's just, it needs to rely on that laser rifle, which it doesn't seem to be doing whatsoever. Yeah, no. Alright, so that's the first elimination from Royals' team. Okay, so let's see what the next one's gonna be. We got... 2 versus 2. Alright. Whoops. Alright, so milk tea versus who? Vanguard, alright. So this is the other PvP one. Man, it just loves this hangar today. Alright, that's interesting. So, okay, it's a cannon tank with pistols. Interesting. The lefty pistol, sure. I probably would replace the it with an HP 3 or something. But the one on the right hand isn't exactly doing it any favors because it's randomly going to switch to that thing. Not HP 3s, but you know, the 110 ones. I'm more than likely going to win this, but cool design though. Kind of with that same kind of winter camo kind of thing going on. Oof. Alright, that was rough. Yeah, I'm gonna have a tank meta here. Because of the fact that there's a very likely matchup between the jank tank and whatever's left on this team, as kind of a bonus round, was gonna take the last survivor from each one and then put them against a kind of a mascot tank for each team. So for Royal's team, I'll have my Matrix Overdrive on there, and then it was supposed to fight the Iron 075 or whatever the hell it's called. So that was going to be the one for Wachter's team here. Huh. Alright, it seems to have learned, like, I need to do hidden runs against this tank. It's my only chance. Dang. It's actually baiting out its shots. Yeah, I like the type coverage on this tank. It's got a good mix of stuff going on. It's got its heat, it's got its shell damage, it's got its energy damage. It's actually funny. There's often a misconception that the whole, like, 3 damage type thing started in 5th gen. Like, no, there were only 2 damage types in 4th gen exclusively, and, well, no. First and 4th were the only ones that actually had only 2. Then everything else also still had heat, or, in the case of 5th gen, chemical. It was more or less the same thing. It's just in this case it was more of a build-up, which personally I preferred the build-up method. It's much more fun when there's different mechanics for each of the damage types. And kind of a mix between them so that one of them's kind of an overlap that everyone can rely on. But again, personal preference, it's not... They tried something new. Some people liked it, some people didn't. That's kind of the name of the series. They're always trying new stuff. And it's not like that was only with AC, because, hell, kind of funny that so many people recognize Souls as a formula now, but dude, they tried so much crap before they got to that. Also, this fight's going crazy, I have to say. Like, I mean, when it comes to the whole Souls thing, like, I don't think a lot of people realize, like, it started with Kingsfield as kind of like a almost friggin' Dark Souls meets Doom. And that had a bunch of cool mechanics and really cool map designs and everything, but there were problems. Like, instead of the whole respawn mechanic, there were only like 2 or 3 checkpoints throughout the game, and you'd lost all your progress when you got reset back to that checkpoint. So you could basically go and find a save point, and then you could reload your save, or you could accept that checkpoint and do a sort of Iron Man challenge kind of thing. which seemed like a really weird way for them to do it. Oh man, 4.44 seconds left. Alright, there we go. So Milk Tea's eliminated. No more Milk Tea Royal. No, Milk Tea's pretty darn good. Actually like Milk Tea myself. But yeah, no, they did some seriously weird stuff. Like, honestly, the closest to ye old Dark Souls. Mentioned it several times, but that would be, what's it? Also, looks like we're fighting with number 4 this time. Oh, whoops. Hit the wrong button. We got 4 versus 1. But, like, yeah, if anyone's played Shadow Tower, it is... Okay, it gets written off as terrible by a lot of people. You gotta give it a chance. Because it is really good, actually. Like, the mechanic that pisses people off is because they like to use the same weapon over and over. And the weapons basically suffer from what, honestly, I would describe as pretty realistic degradation. Like, after 50 or so hits with something, that thing is going to be rendered unusable for a while, and you need to go and get it fixed. And I think something a lot of people overlook in that regard, like, yeah, the whole Souls thing of, like, your weapon is unusable after, after a billion years of being swung around. No, swing that thing 3 or 4 times, like, say it's... unless it's something super heavy, like, say it's an axe. If it's an axe, it's still got some weight to it, might be able to do some stuff. If it's a mace, it'll be fine. If it's something like a sword or whatever, there are a lot of technicalities that come together, for that. It's actually pretty fascinating to read about different types of edge usage and stuff like that. Also, I don't think I've ever heard this piece before. But yeah, no, like situations where, they knew they'd be fighting somebody in, they just, like a padded jack or just heavy gamazon or something like that, and they would put a very, very, very tight edge on their blade there, and that thing would go dull very fast, but it would actually be able to, cut through cloth and stuff like that, and that's often a misconception that, there's a misconception out there that it's just like, it's a blade, it'll cut through cloth. It's like, look up tests of swords and other stuff against gamazons, and that mess is resilient. Like, this stuff is basically a slightly more durable version of a winter jacket. And, yeah, no, that thing will pretty reasonably protect somebody from a slash or pretty much anything other than a thrust. It does a pretty good job of dulling the blow of something like a mace or whatever. It does a pretty good job of a lot of things. And that's why in a lot of old historical things, you see somebody going around just looking like a dork in a bunch of padded stuff. It's like, no, that worked. It is much harder to cut through that kind of stuff than a lot of people realize. But alright, so Kisaragi here got a tad bit eliminated. Alright. There we go. We got 2 left on Royal's team, 3 left on Wachter's team. Alright, so looks like we got 5 versus 1. Sorry, Kisaragi, you tried. Alright, verse 1. But yeah, no. I know it's a little bit of a random subject for this, but there is just armor penetration and stuff like that in general is just a really fascinating thing to read and watch tests of and stuff like that. Absolutely love looking at that kind of stuff. Which is, yeah, I always loved how they experimented with different armor systems and stuff like that in different Souls games. And different weapon systems and whatnot. But no, back on the subject of Shadow Tower, though. That thing is really, really fun, actually. And it's funny because early on there's even a... I constantly mention this when bringing it up, but there's even this this bit where you can actually get the AC-1 grenade launcher in the form of a ring, and it's just called a fireball ring, and you basically just, make a deal with an NPC to get it. Oh wow, this is going way more brutal than I would have expected. But no, you know, you think, oh, it's just friggin' fireball or whatever, and then you shoot the thing, and it sends you back a little bit. It fires the same exact projectile as AC-1. And yeah, has the exact same ammo count, too. So it was very, like, it wasn't an accident. It was definitely that. And that goes back to that same durability thing I mentioned earlier. Like, instead of just a mana pool or something like that, you have a mana pool, but you use a particular item to use a particular ability, and that thing just loses durability as you go along. So, you do basically have an ammo count on top of other stuff. It could have been implemented better, but, you know, for a very early system, for how it is, I mean, I think it's extremely satisfying. There's a lot of systems to that game, and definitely a lot more depth that doesn't really get mentioned very often. So, as has been said before, you know, it's a From thing. Everything they make needs to be viewed with a bit of a grain of salt and accepted for the kind of not necessarily perfect but interesting experiment that they've created. You know, it is how it is. There was a video the other day that somebody put out that they were saying that, you know, that's pretty much the case. They're very good at experimenting. Perfection has never quite been, you know, achieved, but whenever they find something that works, they really go with it. Man, that was close! Alright, the giant tank just won it. I really expected that one to go to the White Rose, but that thing's eliminated now. But yeah. We've got... okay, it looks like we've got 3 against 3. Alright, let's see this happen. I mean, personally, like, as far as the series goes and stuff like that, the AC in particular, it's kind of funny that there's even, like, a cross-generational war. It's just... they totally got something right in each one. Also, Ash and Desire, that sounds like a friggin' romance novel for Dark Souls 3. But, yeah, kind of some of the stuff I might find on my wife's shelf. But no, that is cool looking, though. But, it's just... yeah, each time they got something very right. Like, Gen 1, they got the map design right. Gen 2, they got a lot of the kind of set pieces and some of the, especially some of the fighting maps were pretty fantastic. Personally, I love the sheer ridiculousness of AA, but even if it got a little bit bizarre at times. Oh wow, this thing is rocking pretty hard here. Jesus. Coffee Grinder just got ground. Wow. Actually, I think as a bit of a brief intermission, I'm gonna have to have this thing fight the Caffeinator. Wow. That thing is brutal. But yeah, so then, you know, 3 comes along and they got a lot of the, personally I think the part balance, not part balance in terms of, you know, PvP balance, but I mean in terms of the number of options available, it was nice to have more stuff available. I feel like they got the difficulty more... they kind of figured out a good difficulty balance for early 3rd gen, and then, you know, completely threw that out the window for cool story elements for later 3rd gen. Because they started experimenting, you know, with their different plot lines, and, you know, started experimenting with different music types and everything. And, I mean, a lot of the music, except for LR has... honestly, I really don't like LR's soundtrack, other than maybe a couple tracks, and even then it took some doing to even find them. But, yeah, no. This thing just got crushed. But yeah, no, so... it got some of the cool mechanics in there that they wanted to get in there for a while, like splitting timelines and splitting, you know, allowing part destruction and things like that, which they obviously experimented on when it came to Silent Line, but you know, you could tell they were all experimental, and I think Nexus came very very close. Alright, so this is my version of that AC. By the way, this is, you know, my personal generic jack, as I like to call him, the, you know, just general mission build. So, same kind of burst missiles, it's got the high ammo mid-rockets on the back, dagger blade on the left, and 63. With what I like to call the rigid beef combo. Essentially, it's just super high shell defense, with kind of an understanding that it would try to dodge all the energy stuff. But yeah, so then after all that, you know, AC4 comes along, and they really just nailed the set. Well, okay, I should say AC4 itself, you know, it nailed some of the cool set pieces, and it started experimenting with a new system, and then FA came along and perfected the set pieces, I mean, in terms of the series anyway, in context of it anyway, and then probably had the most satisfying PvP in my opinion, to some degree. It was until the rifle meta came along. There were a few patches where they had gotten the weapon balance a little bit better, and then it kind of got a little bit messed up. Alright, so, first off, back to this thing. So for Royals team, there's basically one left, other than the bonus AC, which we'll throw in later, so they're all gone except for the jank tank. Yeah, you said this thing wouldn't work, man. But anyway, yeah, you know, it, as far as the feel, like the kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, just like you beat a mission thing there, and it's like, okay, I can buy this scenario kind of thing, like, it kind of makes sense for them to have these sorts of mechs there, and like the music, and the way that all these cool effects were going on. It feels like cinematography-wise, they really nailed it there. A scale, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Then 5 came along, and, you know, it... Honestly, I would rate that just under a third for its, you know, tricky part types and, you know, cool combinations you can make, and that's... Honestly, I wish that they could have made a game similar to this, with 5th gen Unix, just like a standalone thing where it's just those. Because, I mean, I'd buy that. I'd find a way to buy that. So yeah, I don't know. Just, thought it would be kind of cool. But yeah, I feel like, they really, okay, in 5 they got the parts right. VD came along, and for some reason they renamed the parts to some very confusing stuff. It feels like if they narrowed it down to, you know, how it was in some of the older ones with the just more recognizable part names, I would say they always had a mix of working and not working as far as that goes, but it feels like the function of the parts and the ideas behind them worked, but not necessarily the implementation. But then, you know, they had a lot of other cool stuff, and personally, I loved the hell out of hardcore mode, because, well, I love me Iron Man modes on anything, frankly. And that's why I've made so many videos on them, but no, it's just... I love everything about that mode, like the fact that they gave you different versions of it, and all this other stuff, and it's relatively simple to implement. It's just slight modifiers that you put in, you have a certain number of lives, and you just arcade that mess. Like, suddenly your friggin' latest gen Armored Core became a Genesis game or whatever. And yeah, absolutely loved it. The online, not as much, but I still had some fun with it. I actually took part in a tournament a while ago and surprisingly did decently well. I think I went through 2 rounds. Alright, so there we go. First off, bringing, okay, Wachter, your team won. But that's why I'm adding 1 extra. I'm adding 1 extra to each of these teams, which is a ridiculous tank. Like I said, Watcher's team gets the Iron, Royals gets the Matrix Overdrive. So they're the, I don't know, random Spirit of Vengeance that came in here. There we go, so this thing just sort of showed up out of nowhere, the weird pulverizer looking thing. But yeah, so they're all good for something. You know, they've all done stuff right, they've all done stuff wrong. I don't know. I think it's easiest not to really say, you know, one generation, other generation, you know, older people, newer people, whatever. It's FromSoft, okay? It's just, this is what they do. There's really no need to, you know, go for one series or another. This is just, experimentation's what they do. They're the mad scientists over in that friggin' whole thing. Alright, so, that went pretty well. Give that another go. Now, both the Matrix Overdrive and the Iron are ludicrously strong, so let's see how that goes. And municipality, right? Wait, no. I'm not thinking today. Such things happen. Where's on good donkey? There we go. I mean, to some extent, they've accidentally created an almost sort of cult of personality to their company. It's weird, because when Souls got popular out of nowhere, a lot of people did start jumping back into their older games and whatnot, so there's that. I mean, especially one thing that I would recommend watching, more so than playing, there's a guy goes by the username of Lois Jr. that set up a, that he usually does like Souls challenge runs and stuff like that, but he ended up going and doing blind runs of the Kingsfield, the earlier Kingsfield games, and I believe some of the newer ones too. And honestly, those hold up surprisingly well. Alright, so the last one left is Winter's End, right? No, wait, this is the Soviet one. No, it was 2 that's the last one left, sorry. But yeah, no, so those are pretty darn fun to watch, and it's kind of funny because you can find a lot of references to the others in the series. Alright, I might as well just let this play out. There we go, fast forward. It was faster to just leave that on fast forward. Alright. Alright, 2. So, Vanguard, there we go. Actually a little bit hilarious, because as harmless as this is, the majority of these AI arena things do still end up getting a little notice from YouTube on there. Like, oh, this is unsuitable. We can't have this. Unsuitable for most viewers. Which, granted, in the course of 3 months, you know, even bothering to turn on the monetization stuff, it made like $1, so I don't care anyway. But it was just hilarious to me that they're like, oh no, those pixels, though, it's wanton robot violence. It's unacceptable. It's insulting our circuits. I don't know why they've tried to become Disney out of nowhere. They are far from it. Oh, then again, we have a freaking lunatic that became president, so whatever. It's all kinds of things that are in roles that they shouldn't ever be in. What can you do? Accidental politics. I don't care for politics. I just don't like that guy on a personal level. Reminds me of my friggin' mother. Lied to a billion people, stole my identity, bought a bunch of crap in my name, basically took a bunch of stuff from me, left me with absolutely nothing to start from absolute scratch. Yeah. That was fun. Go figure, they even used the same friggin' lines verbatim. Any dang ways. There we go. So that is that team eliminated. Now let's put the nice and shiny ones up to a fight here. This is the Iron. The Iron 075. And I will actually end it with an extra that was requested, which was the Iron versus the Jank Tank. Which, let's be frank, we know exactly how that's going to turn out, but, you know. Bring in Iron. This thing is amazing. So the Iron's what I would describe as a hard tank. Matrix Overdrive's what I'd describe as a vaporizer tank. Honestly, the Iron should have enough energy to defense to tank this. I'm a little bit surprised that it's enough to overload it. But let's take a quick look at his numbers while going through this. There we are. Oh, they're scary, apparently. Dang. Man, no, that is just roasting this. Okay, so maybe that wasn't exactly the fairest thing. Let's just finish this off doing one last round. The municipality here. Got the Jank Tank versus the Iron. Why am I even pulling this up? He's already up there. By the way, I'm resetting this because there is a glitch that happens that what's on the left side doesn't necessarily mean that it's the thing that's on the left side. I may pull up any of the previous ones. It's just kind of an odd bug of the game. There have been a few times that I've run into bizarre visual glitches and stuff like that. Nothing functional, per se. But, yeah, like one case that I somehow managed to cause all of the different sprites for all the different weapons to start mashing together as if they're on one giant grid and something went in the wrong direction. But, who knows? Alright, this has to go to the Iron, I would think. Although, if he keeps up that long-range sniping, maybe switches over to the heat mode, it's possible. No, oh, you know what? The Jank Tank can actually beat the Iron, I suppose. Courtesy of those napalms, which are basically the Formula Front meta, but they usually need something else to back them up. Like, just napalms alone will not be enough. They need something to actually take advantage of the opening they create. Yeah, there you go, Royal. Your thing that supposedly doesn't work is currently beating one of the hardest ACs that there are. Again, I don't really figure how this thing is supposed to be a non-functional AC, because it is anything but non-functional. Well, I mean, okay. It lost in the end, but it had no reason to, because it was completely winning up to that point. Anyway, this has been fun. You know, if you guys want to submit any teams, I would say if you want to make them in the original Formula Front rather than the international version, just, you know, slap together something. You do get all the parts right off the bat. The only thing that's actually missing are the operation chips. Those aren't actually even recommended most of the time, because you can actually just make better things without them. They're just there if you have a very specific purpose in mind and can't get your thing to do exactly what you want it to. But yeah, if you want to just put those together, you know, just make a team. I basically have a whole other roster here that's completely empty. And these ones, all 180 slots, are completely filled at this point, so you know, let me know. All things are accepted, whether they're jokes, whether they're actual serious builds. I mean, it's like looking over this whole thing. Like, we have for answer team. We got most of these are kind of random. So we got a Last Raven team over here. We got a movie team over here. You know, the ACs that were betrayed throughout the series. Freaking all the Metal Gears. You know, we've got the Strong Battian Army in here and stuff like that. We got all kinds of cool stuff. So this is actually the one AC that's consistently actually relied on shoulder weapon despite not being a tank. But yeah, any kind of requests are fair game. as some of the unbelievably bizarre ones that have come out recently are anything to go by. I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit until he gets down to it. And yeah, you can actually remake a lot of things, like to the point I was actually considering a jousting tournament a while ago. Just putting in chips that completely ban all booster usage. Well, he didn't use his cannon. Oh well, didn't need to. So, yeah, let me know if you have any other requests, and I'll see you next time.